Did Dollar Tree actually raise their prices? When will the sequel to Into the Spider-Verse release? And what happens behind the scenes on the Toddcast? Well, I talk about all that and more on this episode of the Toddcast. Hello everyone and welcome to the Toddcast, the official podcast for everyone who loves both PlayStation and Xbox equally. As always, I'm your host, Todd McManus, and of course there's a decent amount of news, mostly entertainment news, that's come out this past week, or past 2 weeks actually. First up, like you heard in the intro, we're just going to go ahead and dive into it. Dollar Tree. Everybody knows Dollar Tree. It's not really a convenience store. It's not a gas station, but it's like, to me, Dollar Tree has always been in that middle between Walmart and a gas station. It's just take the gas station, take a gas station, take the gas part out, and that's kind of what Dollar Tree is. Just your general store, kind of like your Dollar General or your Family Dollar or something like that, you know, just with like no groceries. I don't think most of them have groceries. They're just a bunch of random crap that's cheap, you know. But it came out last week, I think, that Dollar Tree, starting in the spring, don't know exactly what month, it might be January at the beginning of the year or later on, Dollar Tree will officially raise its prices from everything from $1 going up to $1.25. That's kind of a big, like, you know, the economy's not doing good whenever Dollar Tree has to raise its prices, whether it be for taxes or inflation or anything like that. But if Dollar Tree has to raise its prices, something's wrong. Like, there's always been those two things. Like, whenever Dollar Tree raises its prices and whenever Waffle House closes, you know, that's the apocalypse is upon us. But Dollar Tree has to raise its prices. I don't know the exact reason. I guess they just decided it was this time. That way they could stay afloat, because I feel like if Dollar Tree kept most of their stuff as $1, they would not survive. That they would most likely go bankrupt within the next few years. So for them, as a business standpoint, raising it by 25 cents, by just a quarter, turning it from the Dollar Tree into a $1.25 tree, is probably the best decision on their part. That way they can stay around. I haven't been in a Dollar Tree in 2 or 3 years. It was way before the pandemic happened. I feel like it was like freshman year of college. So it was probably like end of 2018 or the beginning of 2019. So it's been almost 3 years since I've been in one. We have one in my town, but I think I've only been in it once whenever it opened years ago. But yeah, like Dollar Tree raising its prices, it doesn't really affect me because I don't go to Dollar Tree, but any of you out there that are listening that go to Dollar Tree somewhat frequently or just frequently, this might affect you, that Dollar Tree is now raising its prices. So think about that the next time you go into a Dollar Tree, that you're going to have to carry a quarter with your dollar now that you're going to have to purchase anything from the Dollar Tree. So yeah. So going into a little bit of gaming news for all of you out there, all you fellow gamers out there, the highly anticipated game of this year really was Halo Infinite. Halo Infinite, of course, being in the Halo franchise. The Halo games, of course, are only on Xbox and PC. They are not available on PlayStation or any other console. The last one was Halo 5, and it came out in October 2015. So it's been 7 years since the last main Halo game. Of course, there's been like those little top-down type games like Halo Wars and Halo Wars 2, and I think Halo Spartan Assault was one of them. Just those like, not kind of like spin-off where it's not about the main character in the smaller game, but it's about some characters in the same universe, you know what I'm saying? But Halo Infinite came out this past week, actually yesterday, as this is recording, on December the 8th is when it came out officially. The multiplayer has been available for free for a few weeks now, but the campaign story mode finally came out this past week. And I've already been playing it. I actually played it just before I started recording here. The campaign is amazing. Of course, it's about Master Chief And I'm not going to spoil anything if anybody's playing it or anything, or if you haven't, if you want to play all the older games in the Master Chief Collection, all the other previous Halo games to get up until this point to learn the story, or you can just watch like a YouTube video, and it's probably one out there that's like all the Halo complete story explained in 4 minutes or whatever, But it's good. I really like it. It's open world. This is the first ever open world Halo game where you can actually go like explore without having to constantly do the missions, It's interesting. It's different. It feels new. Feels like a different game, but it's the same story. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like they really did well on making it feel new and not feeling like it's the same game, but just a different story being told. And that really did something for me, honestly, because I love open world games, like those games like Far Cry and Assassin's Creed, and even Grand Theft Auto's open world, where it's like you can finish the story and then keep on like looking around the map for collectibles, or if you got to go take this base or whatever, That really means something to me, because it's like whenever the story's over, what do I want to do? Do I want to, if there's no open world part, it's either do the multiplayer, which tires me out after a while, or replay the missions over and over. But if you have that open world aspect to it, it gives you more to do whenever it's like, okay, the story's done, now just run around and go find stuff. That's really all it is. So I like that about games. It means a lot, that's like, okay, you're going to do this and you're going to do this now. So it's like, okay, what do you want to do? All right, well, I got to go over this side of the map. Then I got to go across the map and do this. So I love those games like that, where it's like there's still a lot of stuff to do. That way you can like 100% a game is what they say, where you beat all the missions, find all the collectibles. It's like you do everything there is to do in the game. That's what it means to 100% a game. So, but it's really fun. If any of you out there has an Xbox or you play on PC, I would consider getting Halo Infinite. If you're a little iffy about it, the story's great, the gameplay's really fun, and it's just a good game out there. So if you want to get it, it's available now for all of you. And if you have the Xbox Game Pass, of course, it's for free on the Game Pass. So yeah. Also, in a bit of entertainment news that came out this past week, the sequel to and this is not what you think, what I talked about in the intro. There's a few sequels that have been announced already. This one is on April the 8th of next year, April 8th, 2022. We are officially going to get Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And it's saying, and the poster showed Sonic, of course, with Jim Carrey is returning as Dr. Robotnik, or Eggman, if you will. And they are introducing a new character, but if you played all the games or you watched like older shows of Sonic the Hedgehog, Tails is officially debuting and making his appearance. His or her, I don't actually know if Tails is a guy or girl or not. I don't really know. I'm just probably going to say he as just a general statement. But Tails is making his entrance here into the world of the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, and that's about it, really. Just that there's a sequel coming out next year in April. God, I knew they were making a second one after I watched the first one. I did not see the first one when it first came out. I saw it whenever it was on a streaming service, whenever it was released there. And it was alright. I mean, it was better than what I thought it was going to be. I mean, it's not like the best movie ever created, but it was still a good movie for Sonic the Hedgehog, you know what I'm saying? Because all those old games are like classic Sega games, of course. But Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on April 8, 2022. Mark it down if you're going to go see it. If you don't want to, I don't really care. I mean, I don't plan on going to theaters to watch it unless like a friend or somebody's like, let's go watch a movie, and then that's the only like newest movie out. But I mean, it's not on my list of like, oh my gosh, I have got to see Sonic the Hedgehog 2. It's like that's not me. Whenever it comes out on a streaming service, I'll watch it. But like, it's not, to me, it's not Marvel level. Of course, it's not a Marvel or Star Wars level movie for me personally. Like, it's if I was a kid, if I was like 10 or 11 or 12 around that area, I would probably want to see this because I liked Sonic the Hedgehog whenever I was a kid. Because even though Sega was before my time, I was born in '99. As a kid, we had a Sega in my house. We had a Sega and a PlayStation 2, and it was like the elite. Those were the elite. Like I never had an Xbox until this year. It was back in like June whenever I got my first Xbox. So it's like I've had PlayStation all my life, and we had Sega when I was really young. And I remember playing the Sonic the Hedgehog game and just spinning around, getting the coins and all that. It was such a classic game, of course. Still is a classic game, legendary games that they've made out of Sonic the Hedgehog. And so the sequel to the first movie, April the 8th, 2022, next year. Check it out if you want to. If you don't want to, cool. I don't really care. So, diving into some Marvel news. That's right. Of course, can't be an episode without me talking about Marvel. So, I'm going to go ahead and say this because you're probably wondering that this was going to happen. I mean, this is pretty much, if there was ever a Toddcast drinking game for anybody out there listening to take a shot whenever I start talking about Spider-Man No Way Home, you can not take that. I mean, you could take it if you want to, but I'm not going to talk a lot about Spider-Man No Way Home this week on this episode because I'm pretty sure I have hashed and rehashed as much as I honestly can. I mean, I could keep talking about how Toby and Andrew might show up, and it really looks like they could, and Daredevil might show up, and all these bad guys from other movies are showing up, and that's been confirmed, of course, through the trailers. I could go ahead and go into another 15 to 20 minutes talking about it, but honestly, I've been talking about this movie for months now. Months! I've been talking about this pretty much since it was announced at the end of last year and the beginning of this year with, like, even though I would review WandaVision and Loki and Falcon and Winter Soldier and even Black Widow, Shang Chi, Eternals, talking about What If. I could talk about Hawkeye right now, which is a good show. You should watch it. Even though I reviewed all those other Marvel movies and shows, somehow, whether it was with me and John, me and Jaron, or just me by myself reviewing those shows or movies, we still got onto the subject of Spider-Man No Way Home. Somehow I was like, okay, this is going to affect this is going to affect this, and then Spider-Man's going to affect the next Doctor Strange movie and everything next year. Because this is going to be the biggest movie since Endgame, or even a bigger movie since Endgame or Infinity War. I pretty much have said all I need to within the past months. If you want to go listen to me talk about my predictions or anything like that, listen to the episode 2 weeks ago or even 4 weeks ago. Just listen to any episode that is just me, and you will hear me constantly talking about, okay, this is going to happen. Toby and Andrew is going to show up. I don't know if it's going to be a cameo. They might be in the whole movie. Who knows? I don't know what's going to happen. It was all my predictions, but I'm not going to keep going. And even though I've talked about it for a few 34 minutes now, I'm not going to go in depth, is what I'm saying. Like, I've talked about it when the trailers came out and way before that. So next week, I'm going to go ahead and say this, even though this episode's not even close to being done yet. I'm just going to go ahead and say this, that next week's episode is going to be a huge episode because as of right now, what is planned is that I and a couple of my friends are going to see the premiere of Spider-Man No Way Home and record an episode right after we see it. And there will be spoilers. I'm going to go ahead and give you a spoiler warning 1 week in advance, which is not often because you never really know when I might review something or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you. Like, there's no spoilers on this episode because Spider-Man hasn't come out yet. This is being recorded on Thursday. It comes out Saturday. Still before Spider-Man No Way Home. I have not seen it early or anything like that. I'm not that close with Kevin Feige or anybody in Disney or Marvel. But I'm going to go ahead and say that next week, the week that Spider-Man No Way Home comes out, I will be seeing it, and I will be giving a spoiler review because of how things are going to work out which will be explained more next week's episode. But there, of course, the spoilers will be towards the end, as they usually are. And I'm just going to go ahead and give you a pre-spoiler warning for that, because next week is going to be pretty hectic of an episode. I already know it's going to be that way. And next week is just a hectic week in itself, not only just because of Spider-Man No Way Home, but because of other things. But the way it's going to be done and how we're going to do it and the way we're going about seeing the movie and doing the review and talking and all that kind of stuff, going to be wild. But I'm just going to go ahead and say this. Of course, this episode's not over. We're only 15 minutes in so far. So, pre-spoiler warning for the Spider-Man No Way Home spoilers next week. But as of right now, starting after this sentence is done and after I finish talking right here in a few seconds, I will not be talking about Spider-Man No Way Home this week, just to save up the anticipation for next week. So, with that being said, there is other Marvel stuff to talk about, though, because I want to talk about this. And some of this is probably going to relate to No Way Home, just saying, but I'm not going to go into hashing that story over again. This past week, the man himself, Kevin Feige, the leader and the president of Marvel, I guess is what he is. The man himself, Kevin Feige, has officially confirmed that Daredevil will be showing up in the MCU, and that the man who was the actor who played Daredevil in the Netflix Daredevil series, his name is, of course, Charlie Cox, he will be returning and reprising his role as Daredevil in the MCU, which is big news, because him saying this so close to the Spider-Man movie, of course, kind of thinks that he might be in it. I don't honestly know, but I've kind of a lot of people have suspected that he's going to be in it as well with Spider-Man and other Spider-Man and Doctor Strange and all that kind of stuff, But Charlie Cox will return to play Daredevil, who he played in the Daredevil Netflix series, and the same actor will play that character in the MCU now. So is it a little bit of crossover? Is it Netflix's Daredevil coming to the MCU? Or is it MCU's own Daredevil and he's just playing him again? We don't honestly know. I mean, we as in me. I don't honestly know. And we as an audience of who I'm talking to, we don't know. Also, another sequel was announced, not only Sonic the Hedgehog 2, but Shang Chi 2, the sequel to the first Shang Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Shang Chi 2, that's just what I'm going to call it for now, until there's another subtitle given to it whenever they announce it, I guess. Shang Chi 2 has officially been announced that it's in the works, and it will have the same writer, and I guess the same director, as the first one did. So we'll pretty much have the same people. It was kind of announced, I guess Marvel announced it, unless the actor for Shang-Chi announced it. Which is good. I really like the first Shang-Chi movie, and if they make a sequel that's got the same vibe to it, with, of course, Shang-Chi and Awkwafina. She was pretty funny in the first one. But I really like that. I really like Shang-Chi. Out of the 3 movies that have already released between Black Widow, Shang-Chi, and Eternals, I probably got to say that Shang-Chi is my personal favorite out of those 3. I would rank... Probably going to make some people mad with this. I would rank Eternals above Black Widow, because Black Widow did have some good scenes, and Red Guardian was probably my favorite character out of that movie. Eternals was a completely new and different story. It was different. It was interesting. Very interesting. And I don't know really how to explain it, because I've already given my spoiler review, and you can go back couple weeks ago to hear that, but it was, I don't know why. I don't know why I like it more than Black Widow, but I just do. I enjoyed Black Widow. As of right now, was the only one I watched at home, because not only was the $20 offer on Disney Plus, but I also was sick that week, I think, so I watched it. So yeah. And then Shang-Chi, of course, like I said, was my favorite out of them 3 so far. I honestly think Spider-Man No Way Home is going to take the cake. I already can bet money on that. But Shang Chi 2 announced, and I don't know when it's going to be, probably 2023 or 24 maybe, because we really have all the movies that are already announced for the next 2 to 3 years. So I'm kind of expecting it to be way later, because we got so much other stuff with the next Black Panther movie, Doctor Strange, Thor, the Marvels, the Fantastic Four movie at some point, the Blade movie at some point, the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 movie. There's a lot happening, which is a lot of series. Like, we know more movies happening. Well, we know more series are happening, but we know the actual dates of the movies, So, but also, still in the Marvel realm, but more into Sony's area of Marvel, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, a great classic movie. I mean, I say it's a classic, but it came out like 3 years ago. But Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was such a such a great movie. I watched it in theaters the first time I saw it. I've seen it probably 3 or 4 times now. There's definitely people who've seen it like 20 or 30 times. It's such a good movie, and the way it's done is such in that animated comic book style. It's so cool and good and looks good visually. But they just announced the sequel to Into the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Part 1. That's right, we are getting at least 2 more movies, including this one, of course. We're getting Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1. At some point, we might get Part 2. I was about to compare some of it to No Way Home. because it's because the purple stuff in the first Into the Spider-Verse movie is what it looks like in the Spider-Man No Way Home, and there could be a Miles Morales from Into the Spider-Verses who comes into the live-action No Way Home movie. It's very interesting and very confusing at the same time, but it's also amazing. But Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1 debuting October 7th, 2022. That's when it's going to make its big premiere in October of next year. We have less than a year to wait for the next Spider-Man movie, which is a Spider-Verse movie, I should say. But Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1 in October 7th, 2022 is going to be good. So, yeah. So, one last time, because I got this written down. Spider-Man No Way Home next week. Going to be spoiler reviewing it as next week, because I can't really wait, and you'll understand next week when you listen next weech. Hopefully you will, which I know you will. All you out there listening right now, better listen next week, because you will hear me and maybe some other people, maybe somebody else. You never know. You never know what's going to happen on an episode of the Toddcast. But talking about Spider-Man No Way Home next week, the week it comes out, we'll have the same week that will be a Spider-Man No Way Home review with spoilers. And it won't be the last week I talk about it. I'll probably talk about it in 2 weeks from now as well. Leading up to the next movie, I think, is Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness in May, I think. So we got a little ways to wait, of course. The Hawkeye MCU series is currently going on Disney Plus with a new episode every Wednesday. It's really good. I like it. It's funny, and it's giving us more depth into Hawkeye and showing his struggles of how Black Widow is no longer with us, of course. It's touching, it's emotional, it's funny, it's got it all, really. It's not over yet, it's still going. I'll give my review when it ends. And then, of course, on December the 29th, in 3 weeks, December 29th, on that Wednesday, is the Disney Plus series premiere of The Book of Boba Fett. So don't forget about that'll be premiering then. And then The Witcher on Netflix, Season 2 of The Witcher, will be premiering soon as well. So yeah, there's more stuff to come out, of course, from now in the next coming months. Of course, soon enough in next year we'll get Season 3 of The Boys. Hopefully we'll get Season 2 of Invincible at some point. I think they're making a spin-off series of The Boys. So at some point we're getting some other show based in The Boys universe, but it'll come out at some point, So with all that being said, I think it is now time to go ahead and get into a bit of a drink review. Yes, this episode is a little bit different. That we are swapping the drink review and the questions portion, which you'll understand why here in a minute. But we're going to do the drink review first, and then after, I'll get into some questions, and I got a lot of questions, and a lot is going to be talked about. So that was actually the last question in the intro you may have heard when at the top of this episode, I should say. So right now, we're going to go ahead and get into some drinks right now. So the drinks I have today, actually, if you saw the picture on the Toddcast Instagram page, which you should follow at _Toddcast_. Only on Instagram, of course. The two drinks I actually have today are two that I've already done in the past, but since this is episode 101, the first episode of just myself, that is after post episode 100, of course, and thank you for sticking with me for over 100 episodes. But these two drinks that, if you saw the picture, are actually two drinks that I have already reviewed in the past. These two drinks were not reviewed together, of course, but they were reviewed in the past. So I received these two drinks from my mom and some other members of my family went to Tennessee, and they brought back a bunch of drinks. And these two were actually some that I've already reviewed before, but they haven't been reviewed in a while. And I was thinking, well, I got their previous score. I just looked it up and found it, and let's see if it can still hold that score, whether it's better, whether it's worse, Let's see if it can still hold up, if you know what I'm saying. So first up, we have the original Bulldog root beer. Now, this root beer previously got a score of a 70. There we go. This root beer actually got a previous score of a 70, which is not that high. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised that I gave it a 70. Because it's a root beer, and it probably deserves higher, but I don't actually know. Let's see if it may have been a bad bottle last time. Let's see. So, Bulldog root beer. Does it have caffeine in it? Is that why I didn't like it? Of course it's non-alcoholic. I don't know if it has caffeine in it or not. It doesn't say caffeine free, so I'm going to assume that it has caffeine in it. So, Bulldog root beer, let's give it a try. That's pretty good. Okay. Okay, it previously got a 70. And honestly, I think it should be rated a little bit higher than that, because that's actually pretty good. Got a big syrupy taste to it, honestly, but that's okay. It's not bad, honestly. It's not the best root beer I've ever had, but it is a good soda. Previously, it got a score of a 70. I'm actually just going to go ahead and bump it up to a 78, which is not that much higher, but it's well deserved to get up a little bit higher. Of course, if I try it again... Like if I tried it again in another year or a couple months, I don't know if I'll bump it up again, because that's pretty a solid score for it. That's good, honestly. Yeah, it's real good. It's not the best, like I've said, but you can taste the syrupiness of it, which is, I don't get that much with a lot of root beers. Some people who have drank root beer before and say that they don't like it is because it's either like too heavy or too syrupy taste, that feeling you get in your mouth where it's like, oh, where it feels like it's just like sticking into your mouth, I don't feel that with every root beer. I felt it a lot with this one. That's why it's not my favorite, but it's not the worst I've ever had, So next up, we have a classic and probably one of the highest rated drinks, without a doubt. I don't know if it's the highest rated, but root beer Raisinet is what it is. If you saw the picture on the Instagram page, root beer Raisinet was one of the highest drinks I have rated in the history of the Toddcast, in the almost 2-year history of this podcast. This is one of the highest rated drinks that I've ever drank on here, and it previously got a score of 92, which any drink that's in the 90s, I'm pretty sure there's definitely less than 10 drinks that are in the 90s, because a 90 rank, 90 or above, is what I give drinks that I would seek out and drink again. Like if it was bought for me, I would drink it And if I saw it in a store, it would be one of them that's like, I would go towards it than anything else, honestly, because I know that it's good and I know that I would enjoy it again. So, but let's see if this root beer Raisinet, maybe they put some cocaine in the last one. I don't actually know, like old school Coke. But let's see if this one can keep that score, go a little bit lower, a little bit higher. But if I rated it a 92 last time, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a definite stay or a little higher. But if it can get above 92, closer to 100, that is going to shock me. So, root beer Raisinet. There's some stuff down here at the bottom, and I don't know if that's French or something else. Soda Sacre de Con. This sounds French. Johnny Ryan. Oh, it's from Niagara Falls, New York. Then yeah, it's right on the border of Canada. So, root beer Raisinet, previous with a 92. Let's see if you can rank up against what you made last time. So here we go. Dang. Dang, that's good. God, I don't know why it's so good. It just is. Good grief, Johnny Ryan. You know what you're doing. Up there at Niagara Falls. All right, root beer Raisinet. I'm pretty sure I had the same reaction last time I drank you for the first time. You did not disappoint. This is the second time I've ever had this drink. I remember last time I finished the bottle because it was just, it's good. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is a great root beer. If you go to the Toddcast Instagram page, you need to see the picture of it. That way you can look for it. If you like root beer, you'll like this. So I'm not even going to change your score, honestly, because you wowed me, but you didn't disappoint. It tastes exactly how I remember it. And the reaction I just had to drinking it, I'm pretty sure that was the same reaction, like I said, that I had the first time I drank it. And it's still giving me that joy of a great tasting root beer. So, I'm not going to rate you any higher than what you are, because 92 for me is a really high score. Bulldog, you didn't disappoint, and you did better than what you did last time, in my opinion. Even though you were 70 last time, you're now a 78. But root beer Raisinet, you're going to stay at a solid 92, which is honestly one of the, like I've said before, it's got to be top 5 best things. Nothing's 100. I've never given anything 100. But I've given some root beer Raisinet and maybe a few other things in the 90s. I'd have to go back and look and try and find out what was my top 5 highest ranked drinks that I've reviewed in almost 2 years or so. So, Bulldog root beer, now to 78. Root beer Raisinet, staying at a solid 92. What a showing. I want to keep drinking this root beer Raisinet. So, if you hear me drinking, that's what I'm drinking. So, yeah. So, it was great to have them two back on the Toddcast. So, like I said earlier, like 10 minutes ago, that the reason the drink review and the question portion of the Toddcast was swapped so that the questions are at the end. The reason is because, and honestly because of the title of this episode, which is already titled, Let's Take It Back. The reason it is like this is because this question portion, since this is episode 101, that I have now been doing this, how many times now? This is the 51st episode that I singly did this. You know what I'm saying? This is the 51st time that I am talking to all of you out there that it is just me. There are 50 guest episodes and now 51 of just me episodes. But the reason this question portion and the reason it's titled like this is because I'm only going to take y'all behind the scenes of what happens on the Toddcast. Now, I've been wanting to do this for pretty much ever since I started. I wanted to do an episode like this, and I said, well, I gotta wait until after 100 episodes because I knew it's around 50. It's like 51 or 52, depending on leap year and when days land, whenever certain days land on what day of the week, you know, because these episodes come out only on Saturdays. So if there's 52 Saturdays in a year, there are 52 episodes. But if the year ends before the next Saturday, it's 51. So it's anywhere between 50, 51, and 52 episodes a year. So I knew I had to wait till after episode 100. So let's just do it on 101. So then what I'm about to do is that in the past 2 years almost of me doing this, the anniversary is January 11th. The first, was it the 11th? Yeah. The first ever episode of the Toddcast came out January 11th, 2020. And January 11th, 2020 was the first ever episode of the Toddcast. It was about 30 minutes long, and it was different. If you listen to it now and you listen to this one 100 weeks ago, which is honestly a lot to think about, that it was 100 weeks ago was the first time I ever did this, and it was nothing. It looks nothing like it does now. Like the way it's set up, the way the portions are. But I should start at the beginning. So the beginning of the birth of the Toddcast starts before January 11th. It started in November and December 2019. At the very end of 2019, I was in a English class in college, and Dr. Rogers, shout out Dr. Rogers. I don't know if you're listening to this, but shout out to you. If you go to ULM, you ever been to ULM in the past few years, there is a class called British Literature. It is an English class that I took because it was just another English class that I had to take. And if you ever need an English class that's like an English 2000, whatever, sophomore level, you need to take any English class that is taught by Dr. Rogers. Take that class, because he, in my opinion, was one of the greatest teachers in the entirety of the ULM college. I haven't even graduated yet. As of right now, of course, I'm planning on graduating next May, and then there will be more college stories to come once after I graduate. So make sure you stick around till next May, of course, another 5 months or so. But what happened is that in December 2019, at the end of the fall semester, we had a final in that class. And the final was that instead of taking a test or writing like an essay or something, we got grouped up in groups of 3 or 4s. There was 4 of us in my group, counting me. And it was 2 of my friends that I graduated high school with, and then a guy that knew another friend of mine that went to school with him, like in elementary school, and then they haven't seen each other in a while, that kind of thing, you know. Where you go to the same elementary school, you don't go to the same high school, and then you meet back up because you go to the same college, that kind of thing. So it was the 4 of us, and what we had to do was basically record, in his words, was record an episode of a podcast of y'all talking about what we learned over the past semester. Real nerdy idea. Like, excuse me. God, that root beer is eating me up on the inside. We just had to record a podcast-like thing, you know, of just us 4 talking and about what we learned over the semester and going over the high points and being like, what was your favorite story? Well, I liked Beowulf or whatever. We didn't talk about Beowulf, but that's just a random story. And I liked King Arthur, and I liked green eggs and ham or whatever, you know. But we talked about that, and we did it, and then on the day of the final in December, we had to present it. We did a presentation, and this was the presentation itself is a story in itself, because this is the one where whenever I went to in-person classes, I do all online now. Whenever I used to go to in-person classes, I did not talk like I wasn't shy. Like, I'm okay around friends and family and people I know. But if I don't know you, I don't really want to talk to you. Like, it's not an insult or anything, but it's like, if I don't know you and you don't really know me, why would I go talk to you? I guess that's like a semi-introvert thing, because like right now I'm fine with talking with random people that I don't know. I mean, it got to be to do this kind of job, you know. But we did the presentation, and all I had to do at the beginning was like I started it out, and I don't even remember everything I said, but I made a joke that was apparently really funny that got the entire, and I didn't talk the entire semester, and it's just like the first time I ever talked, and of course people were like, man, you're Southern. I'm like, I know, I'm from Louisiana, what do you expect, you know? And then a lot of people think I'm from like farther down south, and I've talked about that before. But I made some joke about what we learned in the English class, and I got the teacher to laugh, Dr. Rogers, and he had some type of like lung infection that week, which who knows, it could have been COVID, because this was December in 2019, right before it all kicked off, you know. And I made him laugh so hard that he was bent over in his chair and had to like get his inhaler out, because I'm pretty sure I almost killed the English teacher with trying to make him laugh, which is like, I get up there and it's like, my point is be funny and hopefully somebody laughs. But if everybody's just been over laughing, it's a good thing, of course. But I'm not going out of my way to make people laugh. It's like I'm saying what I'm saying just in a funny way, and it makes the people laugh. Like him almost dying in the back of the room because he went and sat in the back of the class. Him almost dying back there and breaking out his inhaler for his lung infection because I was making him cough really hard. That was the funny part to me, because what I was saying wasn't really that funny, but I was just hollering it out, you know, because that's what I do. I'm loud. So that happened. And around this time, honestly, to take it back, I was considering doing something like this. I wanted to either get into podcasting. Wasn't really an idea for me at the time. I wanted to be a radio host. I wanted to get on radio stations and work for like Rock 106, or ULM has their own radio station. I wanted to just get, because I was like, I like rock music. So I want to go work for a station that is about rock music. Like ULM's station's about rock music. Rock 106, which is 106.1. I used to listen to them all the time before I just got, like, whenever I got my first, like the truck I have now is the same truck I've had since I was 16. It didn't come with Bluetooth, and back then was with the phones that had the aux cord, and the port the hole in the phone that you plug in the aux cord. Whenever we didn't have much data and we didn't have like enough allowance to YouTube songs every day or go on Spotify or something like that, I would listen to Rock 106 because that was my type of music, was rock music, hard rock, metal, like that type of music was what I still love today. But that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do like a rock radio host is what I wanted to do. Be like, welcome back to Rock 106. You're listening to Def Leppard or something like that. Something like that, you know? Because it's like, I got the voice for it. It's like, I can do that kind of thing. So once we did this, I thought about it over that. That was like the last final presentation I had to do. Finals were over. Now it was Christmas break, where it was just like hang out with friends, do this, go see a movie, do all this kind of stuff. And December 2019 was when the last Star Wars movie came out, The Rise of Skywalker. It came out that year too, which is, you know. But after doing that, really sparked the idea of this. It sparked an idea of like, if there's a way I can do a podcast. I said, because, and this is the way I've had to explain a podcast to people whenever I started, because a lot of people that I'm friends with, they're like members of my family. They didn't know what a podcast was until I started doing this. Like, I was probably the first podcast people listened to that's my family, because they're like, well, what is a podcast? Is that like a YouTube video? Like, that's what a lot of people would say to me, is like, I got to watch something. And the way I explain podcasts to people is like, think of a radio show, like a radio talk show that you listen to, but cut out all the music. That's what it is. I said, imagine, and like with interviews that I do, I explain to people, like, imagine like late night TV, but if you can't watch it, it's listening to it. I said the way my podcast always, that I had to explain it like that, was late night TV interviews mixed with radio was how podcasts, I had to explain it to people. Like, well, what is a podcast? It's like, well, you can't watch it. There's no video. I do not record any. I mean, I could and upload it to YouTube if I wanted to, but cameras are expensive. And when you don't have the money to do that, it's not feasible right now. Will there be a video version of the Toddcast one day? Maybe in a year or two. Who knows? If I ever get upon a bunch of money or become famous or something other like that, I would consider doing a video version. But I had the idea in December 2019, and it just got more and more frequent. Like, I could not stop thinking about it. It was not like an obsession, but I just could not get over the idea of that. A lot of people were like, especially back in high school, a lot of people would tell me that I should do voice work or voiceover or something like that. And like, I've had more than one teacher tell me that I should do radio and stuff like that. And I said, yeah. I didn't say that. I said, that'd be a good idea. I would like to do that, you know. Just talk about random crap and play people music and being like, welcome back to Rock 106, like I said before. But then after that final, of course, and then going into December and going into the new year of 2020, which COVID was just a beginning of a thing, you know. They were like, oh, this is this new disease coming out of China. That's where we were at this time. This is pre-toilet paper, pre-masks, before any of that happened. We were still a normal world at that point. In January, the first week of January of 2020, I was Googling almost every day to try and find what I wanted to do. That it become not an obsession, like I said, more of like a passion. Like, I just wanted to do it. I was yearning for doing something. Like, yeah, I love playing video games every day. And I was going to college 4 days a week. Like, I didn't go on Fridays, but I still had to do homework. I still had to do this. I still had to do that. I was like, but I wanted to do something. This is going to sound, I don't know if this is going to sound weird or not. I wanted to do something that not only satisfies my needs of doing something else, but I wanted to do something that would help somebody else out there satisfy their need to listen to something, or their need to laugh or be entertained or something like that. And TikTok was not an idea for me at that time, which I do it now. You can follow me at Todd McManus99 on TikTok. I needed something that was like that, because going to high school was, I look back at it now as an awesome experience, because the homework, the testing, all that was the worst part of high school, of course, which is the main part of high school, was learning. The best part for me was being able to see my friends 5 days a week, like 7 hours a day, and being able to talk with them, entertain them, be funny. We're just joking with each other. We're entertaining each other with our jokes. We're being funny. Like the teacher being funny, everybody being weird. Just that experience of hanging out with people that you care about and that you think are just hilarious, you know? It was something. And then once you get into the summer, of course, it's like summer break. You want to hang out and do stuff, but you don't do stuff every day, of course. But then once college happens, everybody has to buckle down. And then now I'm in class. I'm in a different class. I'm in like 3 or 4 classes a day. In each class, there's different people in it. It could be, one class could be 120 people. The next class could be 30. And I know no one in my classes at that point. Maybe 2 or 3 people that I went to high school with. And it was really a culture shock, honestly, because I couldn't be that guy. I couldn't be like that with these people that I did not know. I could not just yell out something funny or we joke around with the teacher, because college, while not required as high school is, college is a lot harder, just in the sense of doing the homework and the tests and the learning, and that is the hard part, but of being in a area that you know no one. Of course, like I graduated in a class with a total of 40 people, including me, and at least about half of us went to ULM, which is 20 of us, but the school has like 7,000 people. And of course, not everybody's on campus every single day, but being there and not knowing anybody just felt weird. It felt like I was in a new town. I mean, it's like, I know what Monroe is. I've been to Monroe before. I've been to ULM a lot. But being in that situation made me lose that feeling that I had in high school of like having fun with friends every day, being funny and laughing and just having fun was what it was. And I lost that. And I started college in the fall of 2018, and I just had none of that from fall 2018 until the end of 2019 when this idea started. And I was like, I got to do something. And I was like, and I did not know that's what was missing until more recently, that, and after starting doing this podcast, that once I started doing this, I started feeling more happy. And then hearing people tell me, like, that was a good episode, that really made me laugh, oh, that was really funny. People telling me that makes me feel good, because it's like I'm doing my job, because that's what my job is on this, is to tell interesting stories, tell funny stories, because this is a comedy podcast. That's what this is. Whether I say a few news stuff and talk about entertainment news, that's what I want to talk about. And then doing reviews, that's interesting to talk about, especially when stuff's nasty. I mean, a lot of people love hearing me talk about how crap some drink is, and then doing questions of like, would you rather stuff is interesting. But overall, it's to be here. I'm here on this to be funny for all of you to laugh and enjoy, and hopefully laugh and enjoy at what I'm saying. And then you don't even have to tell me that it was a good episode or you laughed or anything, because it's just known. No, it's not. It's just the thought of it's like whenever I pull up statistics and see how many listens an episode has, that kind of tells me that, okay, people listen to this all the way through. It must have been enjoyable. So, because people wouldn't have enjoyed it if they didn't listen to all of it. That's the stance that you really take. Like, you're not going to watch a movie at home that's 2 hours long, and if it sucks terribly in the first beginning of it, why would you keep watching it if it was a terrible movie? If you're not enjoying it, turn it off and watch something else. So if you're listening to this all the way through, I know that you're enjoying it. So, but at the beginning of 2020, that's what did not know what I needed, but apparently I needed something else to do. So I found Anchor, and God bless Anchor. I found Anchor, and I found out they had a free app on the App Store, downloaded it, and so really that's why I started to do a podcast, was that feeling that I told you about, and being able to entertain somebody and make them laugh and feel good. And there's a lot of weird and terrible stuff that's going on in the world for the past 2 years, especially with COVID. Like, I started doing this, you could either say it was the right time or the wrong time. Either way, I feel like it was the right time because of people locked in their homes for them first couple months and needed something. And I feel like I was able to give at least another extra thing to all of y'all to listen to while we were in the middle of a pandemic, But that's why I kind of started to do it. And then I'll tell you all this, because this is just an open book now. The first episode of the Toddcast, I did not tell anybody I was doing it until it came out. Until it was released to the world. I didn't tell anybody. What happened is that I went to work out one night, and then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to record this podcast in my truck. And the way it worked is that I just took my phone and I held it up like I was on speakerphone with somebody, and that's what I had to do for many episodes. And I wrote some stuff down, and I just was like, I'm just going to go for it. And so I pushed record, and the hello everyone has been my intro since the beginning. I've not changed it ever since. Because that's kind of the callback to it. Because I was trying to think of ideas. I watched many other YouTubers. And honestly, to tell you all the truth, the hello everyone is honestly a version, not a version, but it's not a ripoff either. Hello everyone started because of Markiplier, the YouTuber, the gaming YouTuber. I took that from him because he says, hello everybody. That's what he says. So I said, hello everyone, in a different tone of voice, then that's my own. That's kind of where I got it from. The idea of what I wanted to intro was saying was from Mark. So I did that episode, and honestly, in my opinion, the first episode sucks. Like, I do not like the first episode. It's 30 minutes of me saying, okay, so this happened, and like that was all it was. And I say a lot still in just normal conversation too, but that's just me. I think it's just like a reflex now. I remember I talked about the Popeye sandwiches. That was around that time that those were a big thing too. And I got a list of questions written down here of why a lot of people have asked me the past 2 years. I started putting out the reason I chose Saturday and the time. The first ever episode release was on a Saturday, January 11th at 12 noon. The reason I picked noon is because I sleep late, usually until like 9 or 10 in the morning. I picked noon that way I could be awake, and as soon as it released, I was going to post a picture and say, hey, this is my new podcast. It's 30-minute episode. Go give it a listen. And then after that, I think that's the only episode that was ever released at noon. After that, I started releasing them at 8 a.m. And then after a few weeks of that, it evolved into 7, and it's been 7 a.m. every Saturday ever since. 7 a.m. Central Time. And after that first episode came out, I got a lot of reactions from like friends and family members, and they're like, oh, you have a podcast, it was good. And honestly, still to this day, episode 1 is the most listened to episode, because I think when people like just, if this is the first episode you discovered, you want to go back and you want to listen. Well, what was the first episode about? There's going to be inside jokes that I don't get that started way back last year that are probably coming up this year, you know. But there's really not, that began then. Jaron was the first ever guest on episode 2, and that was before, I was still in January. A week later, I was getting, actually, people asked me if they could be on. Like, Jaron was one of them. Jacob was one of them. I think John was one of them, and Sharp, and different people asked. And I was like, well, then that's a good idea. I'll start with friends and then move up to that of other people I don't know, of different powers, you know, like representatives and school presidents and all that kind of stuff, you know. And also, a lot of different people have asked me, well, how did you decide to do... Why did you decide to do episodes of you and then a guest, and then alternate you guest, you guest, you guest, and the you being me? And it's a funny idea, because originally the first idea was I was going to do an episode once a week, just me. Every week it was just going to be myself, and then I would have a guest come in every now and again, just unannounced on a random episode with not really any order to it. Then it evolved into well, what if I had alternated me and then a guest? Well, should the first episode be me or should the first episode be a guest? And I was like, well, the first episode should definitely be me because since it's named The Toddcast, it's my name. It should start with me and then a guest. And then I was like, well, what if I alternate? So the idea that I had was all the guests are on even number episodes, and I do episodes by myself on odd number episodes because each odd number, the word odd, is in my name, Todd. So it's the Toddcast with me being on every odd number episode. That's how that idea came up. That I thought of it was like, well, if I do every odd number, odd is like 3/4 of my first name. So I'll just do every odd number episode, and that's like the backstory, the lore of why I do odd number episodes by myself is because that's basically my name. That odd number, Toddcast, Todd, like I'll do all the odd number 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and then have guests on 2, 4, 6, 8. And it worked out. I mean, it's still still going strong, you know. And then some guest episodes evolved into best of episodes. And that happened later. So, I got a question that was asked a few times: is how much of each episode is scripted? Now, a lot of people think that anything they hear or watch is just automatically 100% scripted. That's a lie. 80%, 80 to 90%. I would honestly say like 90% of these episodes are not scripted. It's a solid 10%. I write down stuff in the notes app on my phone. The intro of the questions, that is fully written out. The ending of saying, please rate and subscribe, that's all written out. The public's questions that I get from y'all is all written out. My answers are not. And even when I start writing them down from where I see them, I don't even think about it. I write down the question and then I don't think about it until I get on the mic here in front of y'all. The intro where I say hello everyone, I just write intro because that's just what I do. And then all like the news stories, like when I talked about Kevin Feige confirming Charlie Cox as Daredevil, I literally wrote Kevin Feige confirmed Charlie Cox will play Daredevil. And then comma something else. Shang Chi 2 announced. That's all I write. I write basically take a news headline. That's what I write. And then everything else that I say after that is just me. Like Spider-Man No Way Home next week. That's all I write. And Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1 debuts on October 7, 2022. Like that's the main thing to say. But everything else is just bullcrap after that. It's just everything that I say personally. And then like the drink review, I just write root beer Raisinet, and then I show the previous score, and then I put parentheses, and I put the new score, or just a score in the parentheses, and then that's what I do. I just have a longer question segment because of these questions behind the scenes. So really, it's honestly close to 90% is improvised. I would say at least 10% around is scripted. The only one that was really almost 100% improvised was that episode I did with Jaron towards the beginning of this year, I think, where it was his idea that we do an episode where I don't write anything down. The only thing I hadn't written down was intro, and then right after that was please rate and subscribe. Like that was it. I had nothing written down. He was like, well, let's do an episode where we don't have anything written down and we just riff off of each other. We just go for it, you know. And I was like, well, that's a good idea because it's different. You know what I'm saying? It's not us just saying, okay, Marvel, okay, this, okay, that. Yeah, we're going to talk about Marvel and Star Wars and DC and all that, but we don't know what we're going to say. So, I've been asked this a lot. Who was my personal favorite guest? Because there's been a lot. I mean, there's been close to 30-something, I think. There's been 50 guest episodes, but it's a number between 20 and 30 different people that I've talked to. And at the end of this year, there will be a picture posted of all the guest list of this year. and what episode they're on. That way, if you want to go listen to their interview or episode, you can go back and listen to that. I'd honestly say Jaron and John are two of my favorites because of it's different episodes. Like, the episode I have with Jaron is going to be different than the episode I have with the president of ULM, Dr. Barry. I'm not going to sit around and talk about The Mandalorian or the next Spider-Man movie with Dr. Barry. I mean, if he wants to, I will. But honestly, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to talk about what he's doing. It's more of an interview. That's what it is. Like, the ones with Jaron and John and all my friends are conversation-style episodes. And then the ones with, like, the ULM president or another president of a college or a mayor, those are interview-style episodes. Each one is unique in itself. Like, I can't honestly pick a favorite because they're all good, in my opinion. I had to, and which was something because towards the beginning, whenever the first major guest, I think, was episode 10. It was Dr. Nick Bruno, who was the former ULM president. I was like, I'm going to talk to my friends. It was a friend on episode 2, 4, 6, 8. And then 10, I shot up to, he was the president of ULM at that time. And I talked to him, and I was nervous. Because I've never met him before, and he's the president of my college. And I was like, I talked to him. And then after that, who was the next big one? I don't really remember. Because after that, I moved on. And then once Mayor Friday Ellis won the mayor position at Monroe, I made it a point to talk to him. And I basically, like, if somebody wins a representative position or a mayor position or a president of a college position, I keep a lookout on those throughout the area. And if somebody's elected or wins that position, is put in that position, I will usually try to talk to them as soon as I can. Because I know they're going to be busy with whatever position they're in. But it's like, I'm going to try and talk to them and be like, what does it mean to you to win this position or whatever, you know? I've also been asked, so I don't really have like a favorite guest, honestly. I've also been asked who's my least favorite guest. I don't really have one of those either. I think you can compare the guest episodes and you can say which one was your favorite, which one was your least favorite. The only problem that I really had with a lot of different people is that a lot of people just don't talk loud enough. And especially with me is that I talk loud naturally. Like this microphone I have that I use right now, this Blue Yeti microphone, I have to turn the gain down throughout the episode sometimes because I have microphones on, or I have headphones on that's connected to the microphone, so I can hear myself talking, and what I hear in the headphones is what y'all hear through your phone or through your car or whatever. Sorry. And a lot of people that I've talked to, like the friends that like Jaron, he was nervous, I know, whenever he was first on a few times, but he evolved and got better. John, while it always seems like he was good from the start, it's always the beginning of an episode that always gets people because they're like, yeah, let's do this. I'm not nervous. Let's just go ahead and get it over with. Let's do it. But as soon as I say, like, hello, everyone, and all that, I can see it in people's faces. Like, I can tell. Like, anybody, if you're listening out there and you've been a guest on the Toddcast, I can tell when you're nervous. I can see it. Like, I'm majored in marketing, but I did take one freshman level psychology class, and I probably didn't even need that to notice some of the stuff, because I can notice people's facial expressions, their movements, the way they talk, the way they speak, what they're saying, that I can tell when a person is nervous and when a person is just like, whatever, they're just going with it. Like Mayor Ellis, for example, he's not nervous. He's a mayor, and he did a podcast before back in the day. So But like with Jaron or with Jacob or with John or Sharp or anybody at the beginning, of course, in those first couple guest episodes with them, I could tell that they were nervous at the beginning. It takes a good 15 or so minutes to get over that hump of nervousness to then get in that position of being, okay, let's settle down and let's just go for it. We're just talking. It's just, and that's the way I've had to say it before with them. It's like, imagine me and you were just having a normal conversation when I'm just bringing stuff up, but we just have a microphone here. And we're just being recorded. That's the only difference, is that our conversation is being recorded. And that's the way I had to say it to some people. It's like, I mean, during the first 20 or so episodes, I think, I was nervous every week to do this. As soon as I say hello, everyone, it's just getting nervous and not even like a little shaking. But then after so many minutes of doing it, I just got okay with it. And now, like right now, I don't feel nervous at all. Especially on the ones that it's just me. I'm in a room by myself doing this, and I don't feel nervous. I mean, there's not really any point to feel nervous. The only time I would be nervous is if I got like a very like highly famous person. Like if I got The Rock on here, or Ryan Reynolds, or even a former president or somebody like that, you know, I would be nervous because of who they are. And it's like these people that are very famous to the entire and known to the entire world, and I'm barely known, you know. So that would make me nervous. But right now it's like I don't even care anymore. Which I care, but it's just I'm not nervous, you know. Also, I've been asked this a lot, and this will be its own thing. Who is a guest that you couldn't get? Now, I've had a lot of different people say no, and I've had a lot of people just not answer me. Because I understand if you're busy or whatever, but if I ask you like 4 or 5 times over the span of a year, I'm giving up on you. You're not going to be a guest on if you can't. Like, I understand you're busy, but for a year, really. And it's like I've talked with people in the same position as you. Like, I don't care anymore. It's open book because you're behind the scenes. Take the amount of guests that I've had on the Toddcast, totaled amount, and double that. And that's how many people I've asked. I actually have a story to tell on y'all. When was this? Let me find it. Okay, one of them that I will say that has said no a lot is the president of Louisiana Tech College. Louisiana Tech University over in Ruston, I asked to talk with President Dr. Geis, and I was told no, which they don't say no just outright. They say he's not available this week. Contact us in like 2 or 3 months, and we'll see what we can do. So then I do contact him again. Then they give me the same answer, and I'm like, well, I guess this is like an auto response or something, you know, just automatically telling me no. So then I called one time because I was like, because I email people is my preferred method of talking to people to get them. But I don't know if people just don't check their email or just don't really care or think I'm some type of spam email. So then I'll call them. I will find a phone number. If I'm looking for you to be a guest, I will call you. You will get a call from me somehow or some way. I will find you. The Liam Neeson thing. I will find you, and I will get you to be a guest on my podcast. I called. They gave me the same answer to my face. And then I just kept emailing them. And after being told no more than once, or after more than like 3 or 4 times, I gave up. I was like, there's no point in me just being told no, because I'm sick of being told no by you. So, and it wasn't Dr. Guy saying no, it was the people who work for him. And so I was like, well, forget it then. You're just not going to be a guest. Like, you're just going to have to... I'll just forget about you then, because like I don't care anymore. Because it's like I was doing that rotation of getting all the college presidents of like ULM and Delta, and then I was like, well, I'll drive to Monroe and talk to this guy. Like, I'll go to his office and talk to him in his office. I only have to do a Zoom. I don't have to get you to go anywhere. literally less than an hour conversation. But if you can't make the time within any point during a 1 year period, like, I understand you're busy, but 30 minutes of one day out of 365 days, like, forget it then. You're not going to be a guest on then. Just forget you then. I've asked different YouTubers that I know of. Never got a response. Got one response one time. And the person who works for this YouTuber said that if there's an opportunity down the road, they'll reach back out to me. That was in April. So that's a no as of now. I can contact them again maybe the beginning of next year and see what happens. When was this? Let's see. Who was this? Oh, that was before. I'm looking through the emails. So I got one. It's up here in March, I think. That's what I want to say it was. It was the episode that I did. It was the episode I did the Mike's Harder Lemonade, which was a bad choice in itself. It was that episode. Here it is. But when was that picture taken? That's what I need to find. Oh, okay, I'll just say this. Here's another one. On August the 3rd, I emailed the man himself. I actually found the email for Ryan Reynolds at Aviation Gen. That's not the email, but that's the email that I found for him was his Aviation Gen account, his email account. And I wanted to email, and I gave him the whole spiel of, like, I got a podcast, see if you want to be a guest. Auto response, like, literally the next minute, and it says, "Thanks for your email. I'll be out of this office for a quick and painless procedure ahead of Father's Day." Okay, this email was in August. I don't think... Is Father's Day in August? Is it in August? When is Father's Day? Okay, Father's Day was June 20th, and this was an auto response on August the 3rd. So, Ryan, you're a little late. But he said he was having... Basically... he had a vasectomy for Father's Day, which is hilarious, and that's such a great thing. But I don't know where this went, but I emailed somebody to get them on an episode of my podcast around the time here it is. So, for those of you that don't know, I have been a fan of professional wrestling for pretty much my entire life now. And I wanted to interview somebody who is a very well-known wrestler, and his name is The Undertaker. His real name is Mark Calloway, and he really dropped the Undertaker persona because he retired, and he's just been doing interviews. He was on Joe Rogan and stuff like that. So in April, I emailed his agent and wanted to speak with The Undertaker. And I emailed, and they actually answered me. They gave me the answer of... They asked me, like, the normal question, like, what will we talk about and all that kind of stuff. And then they asked, how much would I offer? I said, offer? Because apparently for, like, higher level guests and people of his stature, like if I was to have, like, John Cena or somebody like that, or even like Stone Cold Steve Austin or somebody, apparently some actors you have to pay to get them on a podcast or interview show or something like that, which I did not find out until way later. at least a year after I was doing this. It was this time, it was April of this year that I found out that, because he said the agent was like, what would be the offer to get him on? Because if it's and what was the words? Basically, well, to dumb it down, he was like, if you're asking for a free appearance, I'd have to direct you to somebody else. And I was confused, because I was like, I have to offer the Undertaker money for me to talk to him? What? I gotta pay this guy to talk to him for like less than an hour? Or at least an hour, Like, I'm paying you. I was like, you are definitely a million. You were a professional wrestler and one of the greatest for 30 freaking years, and I gotta pay you to talk to you? What? Like, it might make sense to somebody. It did not make sense to me at the time. It still kind of doesn't make sense, but so what happened was, I saw that email after I recorded the Mike's Harder Lemonade review, and I was a little under the influence, and I sent an email back. I emailed the Undertaker's agent while I was not 100% there. We'll just leave it at that. So I sent this, and I will read it word for word. Okay, I understand. I've never had to offer a fee to a guest before. Do you know how much it would be? If it can be an unpaid request, that would be fine with, of course. But if there must be a few, I understand. So as you can tell, I did not spell every word correctly. Then I sent back an email the next day, the day after, and was wondering for an update. Now, I have not been emailed since. But it's funny to me. I love it. I love that type of stuff. This just stories that's just so freaking funny to me. But that's happened to me. Who else have I emailed? I've emailed... Actually, last year, towards the end, I sent a request to Barack Obama to ask him. I've asked Ryan Reynolds, The Undertaker, Barack Obama. I've asked some other people I don't remember. I've probably asked a couple celebrities I just don't remember right now. If I was on the Joe Rogan level of status of fame, they would say yes, and I would be able... if I had an agent at that point to ask them to contact them, I feel like I would be able to get more high-level guests of that famous stature, But as of right now, I'm just another guy who has a podcast that's trying to get them on, and they don't know me, and I know them, But, yeah, if I was really famous to the point where everybody knows this podcast, if 1 million people will listen every week, then they would probably get back and say, sure, why not? That kind of thing. But, yeah, it's been like that. I actually, I forgot this. It just remembered. I actually called the Louisiana Capitol building last year. Was it last year? No, it had to be. When was that? I think it was last November of 2020 is what I want to say. Towards the end of 2020, I called the Capitol building in Louisiana, in Baton Rouge, and I asked to speak with the governor. I wanted to interview Governor John Bel Edwards, who is the governor of Louisiana, and they said that he would have been available for 15 minutes. What? I was like, ma'am, I have a podcast. I have never... maybe once or twice seen a podcast have an episode that's less than 30 minutes. That is just one conversation with a politician. I don't think I could get a full answer out of a politician in 15 or less minutes. Because they're like, oh, you can have a recorded Zoom call for 15 minutes. No. if I was like, I know he's the governor, he's during the and it's during the pandemic, but it's not like he's going anywhere. He's not traveling. Like, he's the governor. I was like, I know he's really busy, but I just want to talk to him for like 30 minutes at least, maybe more if he has the time. And that's when they told me. They were like, 15 minutes and that'd be good. And then I don't think I answered them after that. I said, I was like, I'll see what I can do with Zoom and see what we can do. And then I never got back to him because I was like, there's no point. If I can't get longer than 30 minutes or longer, then there's no point to talk to this person. Like, I'm okay with an episode that's less than 30 minutes. I mean, the shortest episode ever was 20 minutes long. But a lot of stuff was covered in that 20 minutes because of who the guest was, and the longest episode I ever did was a little over 2 hours with John. So, and that makes sense, Actually, another guest what I tried to get was I think he's still there. It was the interim dean of LSU. I forgot his name. I called them. I talked to them. I've talked to a lot of people on the phone. That's why it's like I've gotten rid of the nerves, because I've talked to so many deadgum people on the phone within the past 2 years that I don't know these people. And I'm just like, hey, I wanted to get this person on my podcast. Are they available next week? Something like that. Because I was willing to drive down to Baton Rouge for 3 hours to go talk to somebody for an hour or less and hang out down there or whatever, But he wasn't available to do that. And then I think that was pretty much everybody. That's everybody I can remember who I've asked. So most of the time I've just ignored is what happens, especially with like YouTubers and more like celebrity type people, is that ignored, auto reply, or I have to make an offer of money. And it's like, I'll give you a firm handshake is what I'll give you. That's what you're going to get. You know what I'm going to get? I'm going to say, thank you for being here. That's what you're going to get from me. There's your offer. If you want to be on the Toddcast, and you're a famous celebrity, listen to this, contact me and I'll talk with you. But if you want me to offer you a certain amount of money to be on my podcast, maybe you should pay me for you to be on my podcast. That's what actually should happen. You know what I'm saying? Because, yeah, it would do big things for me, but it might do big things for you, if you know what I'm saying. Because depending on who you are and what stature you have, whether it's good or bad fame, I might make you a celebrity. Let's make you famous, kid. So, yeah, there's been a lot of people, and then I've always been asked the question, is there any person you would want to have on a guest? And there's a long list of people. The Rock, of course, Ryan Reynolds. I would talk to any of the presidents that are still alive. Like, I would honestly talk to the president now, like Joe Biden. I would talk to him because it'd just be interesting to talk to him, I mean, whether you like him or not, he's still the president. So I would talk to Donald Trump. Whether you like him or not, he was still a former president, and he's done a bunch of crap before then, I would talk to Obama. I talked to Bush. I talked to Clinton. I would talk to all these people. I would talk to there's like 100 or more celebrities that I would want to talk to. Whether they be singers, actors, actresses, directors, movie people. I would talk to Bill Gates. I would love to talk to Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or somebody like that. And honestly, which it has a little bit of a message to it, that if you, like for me, if I ever want to talk to somebody, all I got to do is ask. That's it. I could literally email Tesla or something and ask to speak with Elon Musk. And if he's got the time, I feel like he would do it. I could probably email Amazon and ask to speak with Jeff. I have a podcast. I'd love to speak with Jeff Bezos for like 30 minutes. And they would say, we'll see what we can do. That's what they would probably do. But it's like all these celebrities, like The Rock especially, he's so famous and he's so busy all the time. I feel like I could get a conversation with him at some point in the next few years. But as of right now, I'm pretty sure it's like a no. There's not really a chance right now to talk with him. But who knows? It's going to be very interesting to see what actually happens. But to wrap all of that up, I'd like to say all of y'all is to thank you. Thank you for being here for over 100 episodes, now 101 counting this one. while I might be entertaining and funny, try my best, hopefully, while I might be that to any of you, interesting stories, funny stories, make you laugh, make you have a good time, make you get interested in a certain subject. I could be your hero, I could be your inspiration to do stuff. Whether or not I am that for y'all, it's mainly y'all are my inspiration for me, because of I wouldn't be doing this without y'all. If I got 0 listens every week, I wouldn't do this. But if I got 1 listen every week, which I do get more than 1 every week, but I'm just saying, if I had only 1 listen a week, I'd still do this. Because I know I would be entertaining at least one person out there. And whether I'm entertaining one person or 100 million people, or even 1 billion people out there in the world, I'm still entertaining somebody. I'm making somebody laugh, hopefully, make you feel good, make you feel happy. Basically getting away. I wanted this to be a way for y'all to get away from the bad times of life. Whether you're going through depression, bad time in your life, dark times, you're getting over a divorce, getting over a bad relationship, you failed something, you got fired. No matter what it is of the bad time you're going through, somebody in your family may have passed away, a friend may have passed away for some unknown reason, you might have just gotten some bad news about yourself or something. No matter what the scenario is that you were in, I want it to be that little lighter of light to hopefully shine into your life through this encapsulated world of darkness that we might be in today. With the pandemic and all these variants, there's apparently like an omnivore variant or whatever it's called, and there's rioting, people hate each other, there's a lot of racial rioting and racial injustice going on in the world, and no matter what you believe, whether you're on one side or the other, it does not matter. There's a lot of political fighting between Republicans and Democrats, or whether you're conservative or liberal. Honestly, it doesn't matter, because all that matters is that we get through this together. We beat out the pandemic. We all unite as not only one state, one country, but as one world, and we move forward, because we got to colonize Mars somewhat. We got to get back to the moon and Mars some way, you know. But if I can be just the only source of entertainment for you, or one of many sources of entertainment, whether I be your only podcast or one of your many podcasts to listen to. You might listen to me while you're driving. You might listen to me while you're cooking dinner. You might listen to me with your family. You might listen to me when you're going to sleep. Or you might listen to me while you're in the shower. Or wherever you're listening, which kind of weird. Hello, all fellow shower people. But wherever you're listening to me to, it doesn't matter. Because as long as you're having a good time, I am too. And, I mean, I might be losing my voice right now because I've been talking for so long, for over an hour now. But I've been loving every minute of it, whether it seems like I'm nervous and whether I'm stumbling over my words. Still enjoying it, still going strong. And as of right now, this is going to continue going. And I might have to give y'all another look behind the scenes at episode 201, which will be one heck of an episode when that happens. So yeah, so much has happened. 101 episodes. Here's to it. Let's have a toast to 101 episodes, and to 101 more, and many more after that. Here's to you. That was me toasting each and every one of you out there. And hopefully you've enjoyed this episode, and hopefully you'll enjoy many other episodes. One last time that I will say this, like I said it like 30 minutes ago probably. Don't forget, next week Spider-Man No Way Home comes out, and I will be
And there will be a spoiler review next week, the same week that it comes out. So, yeah. So, thank all of y'all for listening to so many episodes. Whether you've been here since the beginning or whether this is your first episode, hopefully you still stick around for everything more, because next year, let me just go ahead and say this, next year, 2022, could quite possibly be the craziest year in Toddcast history, and it's only the third year I've been doing this. Well, it's about to be the 2-year anniversary on January 11th, and there'll be a little celebration for that as well. But as of right now, thank all of you out there for listening to this Toddcast episode and for every Toddcast episode you've listened to. Hopefully you've enjoyed all the ones you listened to, and we're just getting started. Even though it's only episode 101, this is only the beginning. So, thank all of you out there for listening. I think that's going to do it for this episode. As always, please rate and subscribe. And if you're listening over on YouTube, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And click that bell to get notified when new videos are uploaded. Make sure you follow the Toddcast only on Instagram at _Toddcast_. Of course, it's only on Instagram, nowhere else. Make sure you tell your friends and your family to give it a listen. And hopefully you enjoyed this episode, and thank you for listening to this episode. And if you want to know what's going to happen next week other than the Spider-Man spoiler review, which next week is going to be one of the craziest episodes you've probably ever heard of the Toddcast, well, if you've been listening, you already know what to do. But if this is your first episode, you just got to tune in to find out. Only on the Toddcast.